You guys can fire away. I don't know. Obviously, we don't have anything new since the game. You guys, if you have anything, fire away.
What is the plan for this week in terms of getting guys on the field and getting them some time off?
So we worked them out Sunday night. They were off yesterday, and then we're an hour and a half today. We'll be an hour and a half tomorrow, and then we'll let them off until Sunday night. Coaches will leave and go recruiting Wednesday night. They don't get time off.
How much cleanup needs to be done until we head off to Texas?
How much what?
Cleanup needs to be done.
Well, we've got a lot of work. This will be the most talented team we've played athletically. So we'll have to be sound in special teams like we have. Hopefully we can continue to play good defense, minimize big plays. And then offensively, we have to play with our special teams and with our defense, okay? And what I mean by that is we have to take good care of the football, continue to rush the football. See, we were at 4.2 a carry running the ball against Baylor if you take away the victory at the end of the game, loss of yardage, and it happened right before half. So if we can keep that up, that'll help a lot. But as I mentioned after the game, we need to be in the plus category in turnovers to give ourselves a good chance to play the best we can against these guys.
I know it's a big recruiting trail weekend for you guys, but how much does it also afford you the opportunity to watch Texas versus OU Saturday morning?
Well, obviously we've watched all their games, and at this point, most of us are kind of who we are now. So what you see on tape is really what you're going to get. We get a couple extra days of work, so from that standpoint, it should be an advantage for us. The guys were focused today and did a good job, so that can only help us. And then obviously we'll watch the game and see where they're at. Defensively, they've been 4 down. They went 3 down last week against TCU, so we'll see what they do against Oklahoma. And then offensively, it's the same stuff he's done forever.
You're always talking about ask me in October. Are you to the point now that you have a really, really good feel for what your team is and what they can be the rest of the way through November?
Yeah, I know who we are, and I have a good feel for our football team. I'm like everybody. I'm holding my breath because we've played so well defensively that you would think eventually that you might not have as good a day, but we're very experienced on defense. Those guys have had a lot of reps, and I'm confident that they'll continue to play really well, and I am confident that we'll improve offensively because it starts with rushing the football, and we've continued to run the ball well for 3 weeks in a row now. So as long as we continue to rush the ball well, we'll be just fine offensively. I know that I would think that there's people that are concerned in that area. I'm really not concerned. I'm not concerned about our philosophy, our schemes. I'm not concerned about Coach Dunn. I'm not concerned about any of that. We just have to put a little bit more together each week. And I'm not trying to present that we're playing where I want us to play offensively, but we know how to fix it and make it a little bit better each week.
You are probably going to get some guys back healthy again. Maybe, I don't know how many, 3, 4 more guys, but how much does that help, especially having this extra week here?
Well, we should, but I'm out of the prediction business. I thought we'd have Dez last week, and he couldn't go. So, Brock Martin is pushing to play. He was trying to fraudulently sign his own parental release form last week. And then you have Irby that's trying to come back. I'm not sure, and the same with Dez. So there's guys that are right on the verge, and if we can get them up and moving around a little bit this week, then maybe next week we can get them into some team reps and try to get a few plays out of them at Texas.
Have you LD a guy that you could see back for Texas, or is he going to be a little longer? LD Brown.
No, he won't be back for Texas.
Have you had a kid like Brock that has that pain tolerance that's trying so desperately to play before?
You run into a few like that. I think I made him feel guilty. I gave him you're too young to know, but I gave him the story of when I tore my PCL and then played the next week. And I said, you dislocated your elbow. I mean, what's the big deal? I tore my PCL. I played the next week. I don't understand. So that kind of really locked him up. He got real pale. But he's a pretty special young man when it comes to that. It's simple. He loves to compete and he loves football. And he's also at a point in his career. I had a good discussion with him last Friday. He is at a point in his career where he understands there's only so many games left. And he loves to play football, so he wants back out there.
He does know you're a former wrestler.
Yes. Yeah, he and I and Brock and I and Malcolm are close. We talk a lot about wrestling.
Okay. Off the topic, recruiting, and I know you can't talk about any particular recruits. You had a lot of kids in here for the Baylor game. Between NIL and everything else that's going on, how do you feel and your record, the way your team is playing right now, how do you feel your reception's out there with the rest of this class and starting 2023 as well?
Well, we're in good shape because we really only have 2 slots left. Based on where we think we would be with numbers, and it's hard to predict the portal and all those different things. But really just a couple spots left, maybe 3. So we're in good shape with what we have. We obviously have to keep those guys. I mean, you can lose any at any time. We still have young men coming in on official visits and leaving, and we have several more scheduled over the next few weeks. So I like where we're at. I like our class. We're going to hold 2, maybe 3 for transfers. It's really the first time we've ever just come right out and said we were going to do that. Just the way the game's being played now. So it's a little unusual. We hope to get some sort of a ruling or some direction from the NCAA or the Football Oversight Committee. I don't even know who's in charge anymore, on how we're going to handle next year's super seniors. Whether they're going to count against us or not, numbers-wise, makes a huge difference. So hopefully we'll get a little direction over the next couple months, and that'll help us prior to signing day.
Along those lines of the portal, you've been a big advocate of being able to replace players that leave, and that's moving that direction now. What are your thoughts on the number of 7 that's being out there?
You know, it's a number that somebody put out there, and I'm not sure. Well, I do understand what they're trying to accomplish. But years ago, we started to change rules for the safety of our players. And if we don't get the numbers back to where they're supposed to be based on teams that could potentially have transfers, and you're practicing with fewer players, you're back to not protecting the safety of the players. It's not serving its purpose. So if we have young men that are medically unable to play, guys that go to the NFL, players that choose to transfer to another school, we should be able to replace them 1 for 1. And then most of the schools in the country will be able to keep their numbers up, and you don't see a huge drop-off. There have been teams across the country over the last 6 or 8 years that experience huge drop-off in scholarship numbers, and it's extremely difficult to win football games and recover. Mm-hmm. So I just don't understand why we don't go 1 for 1. And I know they say, well, you can bring a young man in and tell him that you don't want him here anymore and he leaves and you can replace him. It's really kind of bad business, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know how well that would help your recruiting in the future. And we have what we call social media, so it's not hard to get information out there. So I don't think that would be an issue. Mm-hmm. It just needs to be, if you have 5 or 6 guys that say, I want to go to the NFL or I want to go play somewhere else, we've all agreed that that's okay. We should be able to replace those 5 or 6 guys. Mm-hmm. And then I don't see any issues.
Are the coaches excited to get back out recruiting? I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think so. It haven't really been out in a long, long time. So we're not in a contact period. Can't have communication with them, but we're in a time where they can get out, watch games. Best way to evaluate talent is to watch them live. So I know they're excited about that side of it.
Analytics have become a bigger thing in football, telling coaches when they should go for it on 4th down, like percentage-wise. Have you guys done any of that, and to what extent is that?
2 years ago, we subscribed to that analytics service, and I'm not against any of them. We use the ones, the Eagles started to use it, and it became real popular. So we bought it and used it, and had it for every game, and it's way more information than I can absorb. So I didn't use it. I just go off the gut feeling now. I'm not saying it's not good. I think there's some good information there. I just couldn't figure it all out and then get a feel in the game fast enough to make a call. So we do not use that anymore from our play calling or when we go for it or when not. But I know that there's quite a few schools that do.
Baylor used that same service last week.
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't feel, sometimes a computer doesn't feel the way I feel when, momentum and just a lot of other things going on.
Were you trying to get a review on that 4th down spot late in the game?
With Spencer,
Yeah.
Yes.
With all the timeouts and things.
I was, and I'm still not real fired up about the spot. But it wouldn't have been a first down. It would have made it, instead of this, it would have been about that, in my opinion. But obviously somebody else had their own opinion.
Mike, you guys handed the ball to Jalen right after that, and you've spoken about how you don't want to run him maybe as much as you had to the other night, but do you feel like he's got elements in his game that can withstand that workload over the course of 12 games?
So far, but I would like to not go so far in depth that we have to find out. Dominic is getting better each week and getting more experience and needs to start taking some of that load. And hopefully Dez will come back next week and get some practice and can take some of the load off him as well. So if we have to give it to him, we're going to give it to him. But I would prefer 25 carries. You guys that have covered me for a number of years know that's kind of my max, where I get concerned over how's he going to feel week 8 and then week 10 with all that. So he wants it. He'll take it 40 times a game. But we need to do a better job of that. And so Dominic, and hopefully we can get Dez back.
Do you try to
People
rest
talk
him?
about. Oh, go ahead.
Do you try to rest him more this week? Is he a guy that maybe you
He
single out
won't
and say,
rest. I mean, I tried to. I mean, he's out here. He runs, and I tried to limit him when he gets a handoff to 15 yards. He runs 40 yards. So, yeah, I give up on. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do, but we're trying to get him back. Hopefully Thursday, Friday, Saturday he'll get caught up. But he just likes to play football. He loves to play and he loves to practice. So.
People talk about his run. Can you talk about that block in particular Godleski made on that play?
On which one?
On the touchdown run at the end of the game that sealed it.
You talking about Dom?
No, I'm talking about Danny Godleski.
Oh,
Took that big guy,
yeah, you
drove
were
him.
throwing me off because I thought I knew Jalen scored. Okay, yeah, he had to hold off the big boy, and that play was very well blocked. If you stop it, once Jalen had the ball and he was about a yard behind the line of scrimmage, everybody was blocked and everybody was sealed off, and it was a really nice football play. So I was more impressed Sunday after grading the tape with our offensive line run blocking than I was Saturday after the game, based on the structure that the defense lined up in. They lined up in more of a bear front, which is non-zone running, and we were able to still rush the ball effectively into a bear front, which was pretty impressive. And they had a 370-pound guy in the middle.
Considering where you guys stood on the offensive line those first couple of weeks, how have you seen this group develop?
I feel a lot better. We've, knock on wood, we've settled into 5, and that they're starting to work together and they're coming around a little bit. They're not the finished product, but they're getting better. You guys watch it, you can see them getting better, and there's more plays where our backs are getting in the line of scrimmage before they have to make a cut instead of cutting in the backfield, and that's signs of us improving in the running game. And Baylor had been pretty good. Baylor had been pretty good against the run, against teams that were capable of running the ball some, so it's good.
Where do you still see room for improvement?
You just got to keep doing it. This, as I said earlier, this team that we're going to play next up front, their front 6 or 7, or whatever you want to call them, will be the most active that we've played up to this point. Baylor was pretty good up front also, but this team is going to have a little more depth and be a little more active up front than even Baylor was. So it'll be a real challenge for us in this game, and it'll give us a pretty good idea of where we're at.
How's Caleb doing? ETN?
He's doing good. He's not ready yet, obviously. He'd be playing. So he continues to get work with the twos, and if he comes along or if the light comes on, for lack of a better term, then we'll start to work him in. But Cole's playing really well right now, and so Caleb hasn't gotten that far. Him not playing football for a year and a half really affected him, us bringing him along.
I don't know if kicking battle is the right word, place kicking, but have you seen anything from Alex Hale a couple days removed from practice? Or how
I
do you feel
haven't
about
watched him. I put him on the driving range, remember?
Yeah.
And so, no, I mean, I'm just saying. So I just left him alone, and he's like the pitcher going into the 8th or 9th inning with a no-hitter, and nobody talks to him. So we just left him alone. He's working on his game, and we're going to evaluate him in the middle of next week and kind of see where he's at.
Last year you had one of the best third down defenses. This year you have one of the best third and fourth down defenses. How do you carry that success from last year to this year?
Well, Coach Knowles and his staff, they deserve a lot of credit. And this is, we've talked about this a number of years, that since he's been here, he's doing a really, well, he's been impressive to me as far as changing the style of play to fit this league. And we've been good at what we do. Everybody knows we're a high-risk defense. We take a lot of chances, and so at times you can get beat up on it. But it's worked for us so far. I don't think there's any question that we would have not won at least 3 games that we've already won if they weren't playing at an extremely high level. So their challenge will be greater this next game. They're going to face skill across the board, and they're going to face their best offensive line they've seen so far. So I have confidence in them with where they're at, and Coach does a good job on third downs. He gets in some different looks and adjusts a few things to try to create some confusion. And we've had a good pass rush, right? As long as you get a decent pass rush, you have a chance.
Coach, you mentioned earlier piecing the offense together. How have you been able to, what are you pinpointing to the team to carry that first half success into the second half and start getting the second half offense going?
Gosh, I don't know. I open up the suggestion box. I'm listening. You know, we were okay in the last game in the first half. We were really good the game before, and we haven't done as well in the second half as we all know. In most years, we've been better in second halves offensively than first halves. We've made really good adjustments and been much better. That hasn't happened this year, so I don't have an answer for you. I can't even make one up for you. We have to reduce some things and maybe get better at fewer things and try to be so broad and run so many different concepts is where I start. Anytime you're in a situation like we are, then I would prefer to cut back than to add and see if we can get better just a few things. So that's what we're working on this week.
What does that process look like of making a second half adjustment? Is that something where you get the guys up in the booth to come down, or someone on a whiteboard? You know, what does that look like?
Well, everybody's down. We're on a whiteboard, and all the plays from the first half are written up there, and all your coverages and all your fronts, and then we go over our call script and our available plays, and you put those up and how they fit in, and then you script your first 12 plays for the second half, and then you have another script of plays that you want to get to based on what was good in the first half or what you think you should have run and we didn't get to in the first half. And then you're always going to have 6 or 8 plays that you block out because they weren't any good based on what we thought and what they thought, and you get rid of those.
And is that the same process you've used your whole career, or is it just kind of not working out so far in this season?
We've used that from that. I can go all the way back to when Les Miles was the coordinator and I was the quarterback coach.
On Sundays when you're doing your looking at how games went Saturday, do you take an extra minute to make sure you look at the expansion teams, because you know how hyped you were about those 4 coming in?
Are you talking about when I look at for what now?
When you're looking through your rankings and whatnot, and you're always looking at scores.
Well, obviously Cincinnati's way up there, so I continue to bump them on up, and then Houston and UCF went ranked, and then BYU won again. So I kind of move them up. I try to be I try not to be partial to my conference, because I don't think that's as a person that is responsible for rankings. I don't think that's my job. My job is to try to figure out who I think is the best and place them where they are. But it's easy to look and see where everybody's at now. Sometimes you could have asked me on a normal year what BYU's record is, and I don't have a clue because I don't pay much attention to anything other than what I'm doing. Now, because I'm doing these rankings, I pay a little bit more attention.
So with that, knowing that these are the final days that you guys could be playing Texas, does that hit you that you're not going to be playing Texas on a regular basis anymore?
Oh, not really. Supposedly they're in the league for 3 more years, so we hadn't got that far. Sometimes it does. Like I'll see something and it might make me think of it, and then for me at my age, before you know it, I already forgot it and doing something else. So, not really.
After Cincinnati's win over Notre Dame over the weekend, where'd you end up putting them?
I don't know, 6th or something, or 5th, or I can't remember. I think the first 3 didn't change. Would that be right? And then after that, I grouped them up there because I think they were 8th going in, weren't they, or something like that? So I bumped them up pretty good because, to me, if you win on the road against a competitive team, you get more credit. That's just me.
Coach, with having guys like Tay and Jalen seeing success, does that kind of set a culture in the future when it comes to the transfer portal for you guys?
We've been fortunate. We've had a number of guys. I think prior to last year, we already had 4 guys that had transferred in here that made NFL teams. So we had a good product to sell from that standpoint, and this will even help us more. In most cases, what most players are looking for in that transfer portal is, can I come in and play? Because they're usually leaving because they're not playing. Or you'll get a player like Jalen who might be at a level where he says, I want to go to, in his opinion, a higher level, the highest level, and go play football. And that's what you're looking at the portal. And we've been very fortunate that we've had quality players transfer in here.
A lot of those players, though, were more on the defensive side of the ball that came in and had. Why do you think you're suddenly seeing an increase offensively that are coming in? And
forever here, we had so many offensive players, nobody could come in here and get on the roster. I mean, all those guys we had here for 10 years, and defensively, up until a couple, 3 years ago, we were struggling. So guys felt like they could come in and start. I mean, that's just the truth. You can call it like it is. Now, we were young,